Welcome to the City Club of Eugene's September 22nd program, The Economy, the Manufacturing Economy of Metro Eugene. My name's Andrew Kalk, and I am City Club's president. Today, City Club comes to you live from a different place. We're not at the Maple Room. We're at Arcimoto. It's an innovative electric motor vehicle company located where the Wit meets West Eugene. And it's my pleasure to extend a warm welcome to our speakers and all of you joining us in person, online, or over the radio, including new and returning University of Oregon students. Boy, it is good to have you all back in town, and we look forward to seeing you on campus real soon. For 3 decades, the City Club of Eugene has remained dedicated to its founding mission to build community vision through open inquiry. In accordance with our mission and purpose, we hope to help connect people throughout our community and across generations, identities, experiences, and perspectives. You are invited this week and every week to join us in this effort, to share your wisdom, to learn something new, and to take active steps to make a difference in this city and region we all love. Of course, we cannot do this work alone, so a special thank you to our Platinum, Community, and Diamond sponsors. The Eugene Area Chamber of Commerce, serving as a catalytic leader in creating a vibrant and diverse economy that drives economic opportunity and well-being. Kaiser Permanente, which exists to provide high-quality, affordable healthcare services and to improve the health of our members and the communities we serve. More information at www.kp.org. The University of Oregon has helped Oregonians question critically, think logically, reason effectively, communicate clearly, act creatively, and live ethically since 1876. More information at uoregon.edu. Peace Health has been proud to serve Eugene, Lane County, and beyond as your hometown healthcare provider for more than 80 years. The Peace Health mission is to keep you and your family healthy. Learn more at peacehealth.org. Lane Community College transforms lives through learning. LCC provides comprehensive, accessible, high-quality educational opportunities that promote student success. For more information, visit lanecc.edu. AARP of Oregon is a trusted and positive force for social change, using the experience and leadership of volunteer members to benefit all Oregonians as we age. More information at states.aarp.org/Oregon. And thank you to the City of Eugene and Lane County for their support as well. Whether you're joining us for the first time or you're a longtime listener, I invite you to support our work by becoming an individual member, a business or community sponsor, or to suggest an idea for an upcoming program. You can do all those things and more at cityclubofeugene.org. Your support and engagement make these community conversations possible. And of course, as we say every week, City Club isn't just about conversation, it's about taking that conversation and translating it into action. And it's our hope that with informed understanding, you'll engage in the issues impacting our community, including today's topic, economic development and building a diverse and resilient economy right here in the southern Willamette Valley. Last year, Eugene was ranked as one of America's top 5 college towns. However, while Eugene is a town with a college, or 3, it is not simply a college town. According to the Chamber of Commerce, Lane County is home to over 500 technology companies employing nearly 4,000 people, 173 food and beverage companies, it might be a couple more now, which are expected to grow at nearly twice the rate of the rest of the economy over the next 5 years. Over 200 wood products manufacturing companies, we'll hear from one of those today, employing over 7,000 people. And today, we are indeed honored to welcome 3 leaders of Eugene's economy. Chris Dawson, the CEO of Arcimoto, Courtney Gracell, the Oregon Community Relations Manager of Sierra Pacific Industries, and Avril Watt, the General Manager of Aztec. Please join me in welcoming our panelists. Chris, it's your home base. We'll start with you.
Well, thanks everyone for coming. Sorry I don't have such a silky voice. I might hire him to narrate my life. Just follow me around. Is that my spot? Okay. Thanks. I need an adult most days. So welcome for coming out. It's great to see actually such support locally. Naturally, here at Arcimoto, we see a huge opportunity to bring more technology, and some of that information they brought out, I was actually unaware of that we had such a technology base here. Right. In the past, back in the Nike days, right, Eugene had a big presence. I think there's an opportunity to return to that, but through the proliferation of technology and as we bring that in and forward. And here at Arcimoto, we have a great chance of doing that, actually bringing electrification, right? We all see that as the next wave of where we're going as far as mobility, as well as just energy in general. And so that's a big target here, is we've got such a great footprint, tons of opportunity here, as well as a great manufacturing base, right? RVs have always been a massive piece of the manufacturing base out here. That's something that correlates very closely to what we're doing here today. Smaller scale, but very similar. So when we look at scaling that out here locally, that's really that workforce that we can really apply, retool it slightly, and then start driving some electrification where it makes sense. And so today we produce this 3-wheel electric vehicle, right? It's 3 times more efficient than a Tesla. You can plug it into a 110 outlet at home, so you don't need any kind of special charging. So you have a level of resiliency and infrastructure need that doesn't hit the other electric vehicles, right? So another electric vehicle, you're gonna have to get charging set up at the house or change your routine in and around. With this, it's quite literally plug and play. Right, you can plug it in at your 110 outlet. It solves 90% of all drives. That's really what we designed this thing for, right? It's covered 90% of all drives in the U.S. are 1 or 2 people, minimal cargo, 3-mile trips, 35-mile total range. So this 100-mile range, that'll get you 3 of those days locked in. And even that daily 35, 40, 50, whatever it is, you can plug it in a 110 outlet overnight. You wake up and you have a full battery, right? And so bringing that efficiency means that most of our customers operate these vehicles at 25 to 50 cents a day in operational costs, right? And that's a massive gap to where energy prices are going today. So I think in the US, we're a little bit slow with this adoption around efficiency because we've never had to. Energy's been so incredibly abundant. Like, who cares if I have a 6,000-pound SUV to go around, right? Because there's plenty of energy. It's on every corner. Well, now energy prices are starting to go up and up and up, both out of the pump and out of the wall. And so now it's going to force us into this path of like, what do I really need to get the job done today? Right, my poor vehicle, I'm a car guy, motorcycle guy. All that stuff collects dust because every day I'm riding this. Right, it's quick, it's easy, it's efficient, I can find parking for it, and super reliable. So I'm always hopping in and out of that, running around town. So this solves 90% of all drives that you want to do. We're not trying to solve every job that you do with a vehicle, just most of them, 90+%. There's still the right tool for the right job, right? If you want to load up the kids and go to dinner, this isn't the rig for that. Right, I guess it depends how big your kids are. Or maybe how much you like them. I mean, pack them into the box. So we're really excited what this could mean long-term here for Eugene and really bringing the tech sector up here. Because I think a lot of the other cities have been hogging it, right? We know that Silicon Valley's been hogging it for a while. Naturally, there's a lot of California refugees going other places. And so now Austin, Nashville, all those other places are soaking that up. That's an opportunity for us in Eugene. We can create another tech sector, right, with a little bit of support from the local government, as well as kind of this better together plays as we get different industry leaders up here and figuring out how we help each other. There's an amazing opportunity to bring Eugene back to what I think it was once before. It's a great place now, don't get me wrong, but we could certainly make this a technology center, not just the U.S., but eventually the world. So that's really what I see here in Eugene. I'm just riffing here, so.
Thanks. I'm Courtney Griesel. I am the Community Relations Manager for Sierra Pacific Industries. They said I could sit. I'm practicing leaning in. So, and I tend to pace, which is not incredibly helpful. So, Sierra Pacific Industries, we're actually a lumber manufacturer and a sustainable timberland manager. We acquired the Seneca assets in 2021, to do my math, and I came over with the company last year, in January, I believe 3rd. So I've been with the company a year and about 9 months. My background was in economic development from the government side. So I used to say I'm the government and I'm here to help. And now I say we make lumber and we're here to help. So we have 4 sawmill operations in Oregon. We have a veneer plant in Oregon as well, and we manage about 170,000 acres of timberland in Oregon, but 2.4 million in the United States. So we are definitely in the business of seedlings and land management and fuels reduction and active firefighters, unfortunately. Our sawmills are some of the most modern facilities. I've had the privilege of walking through and now touring folks through. I've been through a lot of manufacturing in my years in economic development, from wood products, beverage, high-tech, metal manufacturing, biotech. And what I realized was that our manufacturing sites are high-tech and they're high-wage jobs. We employ about 500 people in Oregon, about 6,000 company-wide. And what we really work hard to do is focus on recovery of renewable resources, using every last bit of shaving all the way down to our biomass facilities that make power, that actually power about 14,000 homes. So we probably are charging some of your vehicles. You're welcome. Thank you for having them. And then lumber that goes into the home. So we have a dimension mill in Eugene, a stud mill in Eugene, and one of my favorite mills, it's a small log mill in Eugene. It's kind of a mill in a box. So if we ever have the privilege of touring you through, make sure that I show you the Hugh saw. It's my favorite. And that's because it takes a diameter of about 3.5 inches and turns it into 2x4s. And so really what we're talking about is using every piece of the material to create a product that we're all very dependent on. In our most basic description, we are an Oregon renewable resource manager making Oregon lumber out of that renewable resource to build Oregon homes. And we also get to build homes in Kansas and Florida and everywhere else the product goes to bring a new dollar into the economy, kind of the fundamental of a traded sector economy. And I'm really proud we get to do that here. What we know is that as we continue to progress over the years and continue manufacturing, the technology is going to be critical to our ability to answer the demands for recovery of material and the right jobs at the right wages. So for us, the technology doesn't ever replace the jobs people want. It starts to become the solution to the jobs no one wants to do. So if we know our workforce doesn't want to do that job, and we know we can use them in other areas of the company, like programming or troubleshooting or electricians, it behooves us to work to find the technology solution to move that person out of that sweeping job and into something that's higher paid, higher skill, and gives them more opportunities to be creative and innovative. So our manufacturing facilities embody a lot of technologies which were envisioned and designed and fabricated by our own crews. They know the problem best. They come up with the best solutions. So actually, Eugene, we'll see, is under construction right now for a pretty substantial investment by the company in a fabrication facility. When Sierra Pacific acquired the site, the first thing they saw was supply chain is a volatile element. It probably will continue to be. If it stabilizes for a while, we'll see supply chain issues in the future. The best thing we can do is control our own destiny, do as much value add here locally as possible, and be part of the innovation cycle. So the fabrication shop will build a lot of our mill machinery into the future. It will also build some machinery for some of our other mills along the West Coast. So we're really excited to be standing that up. And it will be critical because we're looking to make a very substantial investment in the site in the coming next 2 years. So we'll actually be adding some substantial milling equipment into it. We did a little bit of a press release on it. Again, just looking at how we make sure we're modernizing as quickly as possible and we're leading edge so that we can always recover. And then the last piece I'd say is we're just very active in understanding our communities and engaging. So we talk about technology and we talk about the work we do, but what we know at our core is our crew members are the fundamental foundation of what we do. We are a family-owned company. We are 3 generations currently in our company. Even at the size and scale we are, they're still heavily involved. And so when our crew members are engaged in their communities or struggling, we need to know these things, and we start to have discussions with communities as well. How do we invest? So we have the Sierra Pacific Foundation, and we spend quite a bit of time working with schools, working with libraries, asking the questions on the weekends or the evenings, where do our crew members go? They care about the M's. Okay, let's do our company picnic at the M's and let's see how we get involved. It's important for us to be responsive to where our crews care, and that keeps them with us in retention long term. So in our first year under the Sierra Pacific ownership, I think the foundation invested about $200,000 back into the community here locally, just in those initiatives. You know, the Veneta has a celebration run this weekend, a little plug for them. It's a 5K. You can walk it. It'll be a lot of fun. We're going to sponsor that event because that's really important to our crews who are out in Notai. So those types of events that just kind of make culture and place thrive. So there's a little 7.5 minute.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Avril Watt, and I am the general manager of one of the Aztec sites. So let me throw a few facts and figures at you about Aztec. So we are actually a publicly traded company, about $1.4 billion, with several manufacturing sites throughout the United States and around the world. There happens to be 2 Aztec sites here in town. There's one over close by the airport, formerly called Peterson Pacific. And then I run the other site, which is down kind of in South Eugene, and that was formerly known as Johnson Crushers, or JCI, that might be a more familiar name. The product that we make actually was born here in 1947, so we've been around for a while. Initially, the company was called LJ, and then through a few different iterations, it became Johnson Crushers International, and then that was bought by Aztec actually in 1997. So we've been part of the Aztec family for quite some time, but just recently rebranded to that. The facility that I have, it's on a 13-acre footprint, 160,000 square foot manufacturing facility, 14 CNC machine centers, 3 plasma burn tables, 2 big press brakes, and a robot welder, just to name a few of the toys that the boys and the girls get to use every day. We primarily manufacture heavy manufacturing equipment, rock crushers and screen boxes. So a rock crusher does exactly what you think it does. It crushes rock. We're really clever how we name our products. And a screen box, think of that as a big sieve. So once the rock has been crushed, you want to put that into something to shake out so you have the different gradations. So we make the equipment, and our customers are the aggregate producers who want to crush the rock. The purpose that we really identify with at Aztec throughout all of the different brands that are made is that we are built to connect. And when you think about it, we say that that's our purpose, that we're built to connect. So we make the product that can make the aggregate, that can make the roads or the sidewalks, that we all connect from A to B. So we feel that that's an appropriate purpose for us to be focused around. Another P is people. Just like anywhere else, I'm going to tell you that we offer competitive packages to folks, but we also we're very safety forward in our culture. We make big pieces of equipment. They can be 50, 60, 70,000 pounds, and they have to be robust. Yeah, you rig one of those up wrong and with an overhead crane and try moving it down a bay, and you get it wrong. You're not dropping it to stub somebody's toe. So we're very safety conscious, and I take it as a delight when we have a reasonably new employee. They've been there for a while, and they'll stop me and say, you know, Avril, I've been here for a while now, and I really realize that you take safety seriously. So we work hard at that every day. And then we also like to offer career journeys to people, whether that means that they want to move laterally into different positions or kind of promotionally. You know, we try to have opportunities there. The challenges with people are that we've got to remember that we've got an ever-changing workforce demographic. I would think that the Aztec that my grandparents might have enjoyed working in is not necessarily the Aztec that my grandchildren would want to work in. And I think in heavy manufacturing, we struggle a little bit with, because you're a production line, and that's the way we've always done it, is the answer. And I think that we need to do a better job at appealing to the next gen workforce that is out there. I would also say that another challenge there is, and you've heard this before, but skilled labor and a severe lack of it. And I will tell you that I sit here today and I don't think I've been as frustrated about the lack of solutions towards skilled labor. I've volunteered my time. I've sat on several advisory boards at different levels, actually in the state, and there's a lot of talking and no action. So, it's very, very frustrating that, I talk to colleagues in manufacturing and in construction, and literally we have to just create our own internal training programs. And when I say we're looking for some skilled labor, we're not asking for the moon. We're asking for people who can come and actually read a tape measure. That's how basic. We're asking for people who can use small measuring tools to measure whether a part's been machined in spec or not. So we can teach the other skills, but that's the level of skills that we're seeking that we can't currently find. It's a problem. That has to lead us then to what part does technology or automation or AI play in the survival of heavy equipment manufacturing? My production manager just came back from Chicago from a fabrication expo, and he said, Avril, every booth had a robot or a cobot welding, assembling. He said, when I left Chicago Airport, I stopped and ordered a coffee, and a robot made it for me. So, I think we're trying to find our way in solving for the skilled labor shortage, but then also repurposing some of those positions, as you said, some of those skills into other positions. The third P, I would say, is what's our place in the community? And in very simple terms, we've got 220 employees at my site. We work 3 shifts, 7 days a week. But if I, in very simple terms, say that those 220 wage earners probably house and clothe and feed 800 souls in the local community, that's a place that we find in our community. We also want to be innovative and supportive of our community and be a good community partner. And then the last P I would leave you with is our position. What position does heavy manufacturing find itself to be in both the local and in the state economy? Our vision statement at Aztec is to build innovative solutions that create life-changing opportunities. When I think life-changing opportunities, I'm not thinking about changing lives next year or even a 2030 vision. I'm thinking 2040, 2050. So I'm thinking longevity to give someone a life-changing opportunity at Aztec. And I honestly struggle to look out that far and wonder if heavy equipment manufacturing is going to survive in the Oregon and in the local economy. With the headwinds that are against us, with, sometimes we just don't feel very welcome. And yet we've been here for a long time, 1947. And so those are some of the challenges that we face with some of the economic development and capital expenditure decisions that we want to make year over year. Are we going to buy a $6 million machine next year and put it in somewhere where we're not really sure if we're going to be welcome in a few years? So, that's, I would say that those are the workforce and kind of the general kind of probably how we feel that we're positioned here are the challenges that we face.
Thank you, Chris, Courtney, and Avril. We will begin Q&A in just a moment, but first, I'd like to thank the business and in-kind sponsors whose support helps make City Club possible. Thank you to our gold sponsors, Network Charter School, Homes for Good, Hirschner Hunter LLC, and Evans, Elder, Brown, and Subert. Thank you also to our in-kind sponsors, KRVM 91.9 Radio, Alpha IT, Dotson's Photography, the Ninkasi Better Living Room, and Claim 52. Also, special thank you to our award-winning public radio station, KLCC FM 89.7, for airing City Club programs Mondays at 7 p.m. For those of you listening at home right now, your household is one of several thousand tuning into City Club on KLCC. We love that you are here. You can find all recent City Club programs archived on KLCC, as well as on our YouTube channel and as podcasts. We'll take a brief break before returning for the last part of our program with question and answers. Thanks very much. Welcome back to City Club's September 22nd program. We'll jump right into question and answers. Mary, you're first.
I have two questions. One is really quick. If we brought a group of teachers back to your places to tour and learn all about what the manufacturing possibilities are in Eugene, would you say yes?
Yes.
We all had a good time last time we did it.
I would caveat only if you also bring students.
No, these are the teachers. You can do students separately. These are the teachers. The teachers need to know what's happening around here.
We do a lot of tours with teachers, both teachers and students. Sheldon High School just asked to bring 42 students out, and that one I'm like, oh, well, yes, but the teachers are phenomenal because the teachers come into contact with the students who don't yet know where they want to be, and so they can start to think about, well, wait a minute, this student isn't really lining up with this history class, but man, they really have an idea for how things work. I think I'm going to call Avril, right? I mean, I'd rather they call me, but we can share. We're neighbors.
And I forgot the opening I'm supposed to say. I'm Mary Layton, a City Club member. And I've been to Averil's place, and it's an eye-opener, and I've been to the sawmill, too, with teachers. Okay, but that brings me to the other question. You mentioned the problem with people coming without basic skills like how to measure carefully. We heard actually about that from Peterson Pacific, too. They have a little kit they gave us when we visited them about measuring. So what it means is that teachers, we have not figured out how to make students care about that stuff. Then it has to do with a situation I think about all the time as a retired person. What is work? How do we make ourselves part with all of our, bring our whole selves to the job and make it work, right? So I'm curious about what your company policies and practices are that help incoming employees and ongoing employees consider the importance of learning the thing they need to learn and doing it well. What are the rewarding systems in your company for engaging people on a deep level and helping them appreciate? It really does matter if it's a micrometer off.
So something that we enacted last year, and we're still kind of in the development stage, is that we've got what are called True North boards. We measure 4 metrics on there: SQDC, safety, quality, delivery, and cost. And so we have a True North board for our fabrication, then for our burn tables, for our CNC machines. We'll develop for our assemblers, for our painters. And so we meet at those boards every day, and they can literally see if they're on target. If they took longer to do a job, we actually dollarize it. Here's how much that cost extra to do that. And by the way, we don't get to upcharge that to the customer. So it's actually really helped employees understand the importance of measure twice, cut once. When they see that there's quality errors on there and what that cost. So, we're working out ways to really bring that to the shop floor understanding rather than, a bunch of us sit around a conference table and talk about, well, we're going to have to cut some costs because we're inefficient. We would like to be more efficient and not have to cut costs.
Yeah, I think we probably all have some similar programs, but we call them different elements, although I love True North. We have kind of a Take 60 program where we're really saying, take the time to pause, double check your safety, ask for help. And then we work on mentor structures so that our crew understands they have a person they can go to, they can ask the question, they can get feedback. And then we check that feedback loop internally at a couple different levels. It's important that the new crew member knows they've got the support all the way through the management chain, and they've got people that are asking them, okay, it's week 2, it's week 4, which was the best part of the job, which part feels the most stressful, and we start to figure out where their acuity is leaning towards. Because for us, we're moving folks out of entry-level jobs really fast. The minute we start to see how they're clicking through ideas and grasping concepts, we're finding the location for them where they can hone that skill and do the most value add overall for themselves and the company.
So maybe a different approach. So I think those are great programs, and we need to work those in. Here at Arcimoto, we're pretty early, but basically what that means, if you have opposable thumbs and you can do, then you got to figure it out, right? We're still bootstrapping stuff. But to that point, I see this gap in the workforce as it's coming through, and I think These things are things that I grew up to. I remember I had a home ec class where I learned how to cook and how to sew, and I made my own shorts. They were ugly as hell, but I was really proud of them, right? But that gave me some basic skills, right? And then I had wood shop class and auto, and I think it's incumbent upon every person as they're going through learning these real life applicable skills, right? Do you know how to read a tape measure? Why? Right? Like, do you know how to have them do something around that, right? Make their own shorts. Learn how to change their oil, change a tire. All of these basic skills. Say, oh, here's a knowledge gap that I have. They don't realize it in that sense, but I need to know how to do this thing in order to do that. And now I go build awesome rock crushers, and I know how to read a tape measure because I made my own shorts once. Right? It seems crazy, right? But those little pieces that we give these students, we're giving them tools to be successful. And I'm not sure that, I think we're worried about test scores so much as practical skills. I think test scores are important, of course. We've got to be able to track it, right? You don't track it, you can't manage it. But I see a big disparity. Kind of during the break, I was talking about, I'm getting mechanical engineers, not here, but previous, like at Tesla, I get mechanical engineers who didn't know how to run an impact drill. I had to explain to them like how to put a battery in. It's like, how do you get a master's in mechanical engineering at MIT and you can't run a drill, right? And so it's the application of these skills, I think, that drives the knowledge that we need in the workforce. Like we can do everything that we can on our end to upskill, but it'd certainly help if they were further along that path than having to go back to the basic math and things of that nature to get them up. Armed with a tape measure, ready to go. So I think there's a problem we can attack on both ends, right? On the receiving end for us, but also on the feed end on your end.
My name is Ruth Daimler, and I've been a City Club member for some years. I'm really I'm not too surprised, but to be here, home ec was my teaching. But also, I wanted to mention that we never mentioned the emissions. And by increasing your company sizes and the present size that you put out with emissions, we've done very little in Eugene to reduce our air pollution measures and emissions. And I know that a lot of people here in Eugene suffer when they live in downwind from our many companies. And there's been really no positive, only one company, and that had the smallest emissions of all the industry, I believe, in Eugene, has been challenged for their emissions. But other companies, and when I hear that other companies are going to increase their emissions, I'm really taken back. It's very harmful to our people, and we have to consider that. Now, when Archimoto, I was here when Archimoto first started. I came to the company when they first started, and I was so thrilled to see this automobile that was going to be, before they had the three-wheeler, we had the automobile that was by Archimoto, and it greatly reduced the emissions used. And I was so pleased to see that for our community, and to think it started right here in Eugene. It's really, to me, quite a thrill when I had worked over 2 states quite thoroughly about emission control. So I hope we will consider that too. But I know it isn't on your list. And it's something that the people here really have to challenge and make sure that our people don't suffer any more than they already are suffering. Too many here are suffering.
I think on that point, right, there's an appropriate application of technology and how we continue to drive that. And also I know certain industries get beat up over that, and some of what you were talking about is running these efficient plants and figuring out it's not just helping the bottom line, but it's also helping the overall output. Like, what are the number of products that I can produce with a given amount of energy is going to help de facto reduce that. And like in the rock crusher side, right, you guys get a pretty bad rap because you're so big, right, you create a ton of energy, but people don't realize there's technological applications what come out of that. And I'm trying to remember I think it's called enhanced weathering, or there's an application of ground up basalt to actually sequester carbon. We can only do that with giant rock crushers.
Yeah, emissions are an important topic, and we were kind of asked to talk a little bit about the trajectory of where manufacturing was going, but it's a piece that we do talk about a lot, And what I'd say is we are all talking about emissions. We're talking about our own at home and as we drove here, and we're talking about our emissions that are embodied in the products we're consuming. And what becomes really important is that we work closely with folks like Lane Regional Air Authority, LRAPA, that we are staying in lockstep with EPA and DEQ. And most of us are really deeply invested and participatory within those federal and state and local regulations. It's critical that we do it. We were doing a lot of it before the regulations were enacted, and we continue to do it. So I know for our facility, we were really proud that we were the first, the cogen was the first building, the facility to go through the Cleaner Air Oregon program in Lane County, and we passed that below the very minimum thresholds. And that's because we were forward investing in the technologies and the highly advanced controls that go on all that equipment. And this will continue to be a conversation that will be critical in this region, because we all live in this region. We all raised our children in this region, or will, or have. And so understanding how do we get to be a thriving economy where we can make a product here, employ people here, and we can have access to renewable resources here and power to make that here, and send it out to be sold somewhere else to bring that money back into here to reinvest it. There's kind of this, it's going to be a constant, innovative challenge of partnership to do it. So we're happy, we're elated to be here locally part of that solution making.
It's a complicated subject, right? And I think what we're searching for, at least what I see locally, is kind of the silver bullet, the one-size-fits-all solution, when I think it's going to be a multi-pronged approach to the solution. And there has to be some common sense in that recipe. You know, we answer to LRAPA as well, and we're regulated by them, and we're, again, come in well below the required standard that has been set for us. We welcome them in to come and advise us. So, you know, we're always looking for ways to be as emissions friendly as possible. But again, to my comment earlier about maybe we don't feel so welcome here, that could be part of it.
I'm not that tall, unfortunately. Can everybody hear me? Okay. My name's Sandy Mann. I live in Eugene. I thought the question might just be for you, Chris, but it could encompass everybody. Do you think there'll be a day when there'll be electric vehicles that seat 3, 4, 5 people, electric rock crushers, electric lumber trucks? I'd like to see that.
Yeah, and kind of to that multi-prong, right? There's a concept that we've lost in the vehicle. Sorry, gnats buzzing my tower. That we've lost in the vehicle space, as well as a few others, is because of that energy abundance that I spoke about earlier. Is we haven't really, what's the right tool for the job, right? Sometimes the right tool is electrification. I think for transportation, I'm horribly biased, you may have noticed, that this is the ideal application for electrification. Typical electric powertrains and vehicles operate in excess of 95%. Typical 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, 8-cylinder, let's say in a V orientation, is 35, 40 at best. Then you have rotaries that are 40 to 50% at best. And so when you think about managing the transients of a vehicle, speeding up, slowing down, going up a hill, going down a hill, it makes sense to do that with the most efficient system. And also with an electric vehicle, or with internal combustion, I've never put more fuel in my tank going downhill, right? And you have the opportunity to do that through regenerative braking in electric vehicles. So I'll save you from the long diatribe as to why electric vehicles are the answer for mobility. But then we go into heavy, torque, and heavy applications like rock crushing or wood production. When you have long, sustained, consistent energy output, electrification stops being the appropriate application. So there are other options that are currently being developed. I mean, naturally, I come from the nuke field, and initially I was a nuclear chemist on a submarine way back before I had gray hair. And that's really where I got my start. And so I'm considerably more comfortable with nuke, as most people are, but I think there's a place for it in micro nuke, right, forward deployed energy, and that's perfect for long-term sustained energy output, right? It's one of the more efficient applications there. And then if you asked me today, I would transition our internal combustion processes. We invented the internal combustion engine in 1860. It's about 160 years old. It's brilliant based on where it was and where it is today and what it does. It's an amazing bastion of human engineering. We can make subtle changes to the fuels, biofuels, hydrogen, things of that nature, and now apply something and still utilize all of that manufacturing capability, apply the right tool for the right job, which I would suspect a giant hydrogen rock crusher would be a potential versus a giant diesel one. And in some of my previous roles, I've developed some of these hydrogen diesel conversions. There's certainly a place for it. But as we all know, there's a fair amount of, let's say, economic positioning that some companies may take around the fossil fuel industry and why retooling might be a little bit more difficult, not necessarily mechanistically, but politically and economically.
The short answer is yes. We're watching even electric log trucks. The longer answer is safety is pretty critical, where, range has to work, especially such that if we get them out there on the landing, battery life is low, we have a safety issue. Right now, those engines shut the whole thing off, and so we got to protect the crew. So it's this art of pacing the technology, the investment needed for the technology to the regulation, and figuring out how to marry them at the right moments all the way through. It gets to the point of there's a lot of risk in it and a lot of expenditure and capital. And so the company wants to know that they're welcome in a place to feel confident enough to make the investments that are forward-leaning. And what we also know is we may get out there and find out we could do it. We could do a hydrogen, log loader, and then determine an output of that hydrogen process we didn't foresee that's problematic. And suddenly we're going to need to pivot again, and that's okay as long as people are with us and making the pivot, the constant kind of. So, yes. When? I don't know, but we're doing a lot of watching it. We're investing. We're looking at the technologies, trying to understand it enough to speak to why we can't put it out there yet, but also with enough confidence that in our current new facility we're constructing, we're putting in power in places, anticipating future charge spots.
Yeah, I would say the answer is yes. We actually do have that technology, but again, it comes to a price point. Aggregate production is very price sensitive and very competitive. So if it's going to cost us 20-30% more to produce a fully electric rock crusher, that's hard to upsell to it doesn't pencil out for the customer. So again, we're very watchful, want to absolutely capitalize on all sorts of technology that we can, but it's finding the markets to sell that into.
So there's one data point I'll add to this when we talk about electrifying everything, right? It's the latest thing. It's the Johnny-come-lately. It has a place for sure, right? I've hung my hat on it for the last decade. I think it certainly has a place. What's an interesting data point is if we took all of the fuel that is used today for transportation, it sums up to being 11 billion kilowatts a day that we're using in the U.S. If you took all of the homes and all the power that they're using every single day, it's 4.6, right? So that tells you kind of what's available for charging, and that's if we're not cooling the house, we're not heating the house, we're not cooking the food with that, but instead charging the vehicle, we only get a third of the way there, right? So there's another big question of not only how do we use less and be more efficient, that's one end of it, but there's no way we go full electrification without massively increasing the amount of energy available. So we got to figure out how we're going to produce it, and then how am I going to get it out to you as well? So we've got to completely rethink that, and then that adds layers of difficulty around trying to manufacture those things. We're utilizing some of that technology and then forward deploying it out in the field where you have almost no infrastructure. So There's a lot of problems there. We're each working on, I think, our respective pieces, and that's all we can do is figure out where we can have that impact and start to build that world that we really want.
Joel Corin, City Club member since 2012. Averill spoke about the headwinds that he's facing and is concerned about the future. I'd like you to explain more about what those headwinds are and why you don't feel comfortable about the future, and then ask the other two speakers to talk about what their headwinds are and what their concerns about the future, with an emphasis on why you do or don't feel comfortable here. Welcome here. Thank you.
All right, headwinds. Oh gosh, where do I start? Well, skilled labor obviously is a massive one. And then, you know, I think just, it seems like every time I turn around, somebody somewhere, either locally or statewide, has created a whole new set of fees or permits. Now, then they'll tell me out of the same side of their mouth that, well, yeah, but we didn't raise your taxes. Okay, yeah, but I mean, let's add up all the fees and permits and taxes and see what we, yeah, and then the new taxes and see where we come out. I would say that it's kind of that regulatory environment and kind of the cost of doing business. And this is not the cheapest part of the US to live in either. So it's a beautiful part of the US to live in, but you know, it also makes me nervous that they would, they would say, hey, you know, there's a ready-made workforce. You know, they've solved for the workforce problem in Arkansas, in Wisconsin, or the, you know, there's a program underway somewhere else, and there would be a ready-made workforce for us, so those are really the big concerns that I would have.
So workforce, and we'll table that one now. Fiber supply, timber supply is going to continue to be a headwind, not because it's not here and it couldn't be, you know, accessible, but from a regulatory and just a kind of how Oregon approaches, how Oregon communities sometimes approach our thoughts on timberland management. And so fire is a big headwind for us. And honestly, fire is now a headwind for everybody. This is not a landowner or a wood products company headwind. We're all concerned about it at this point. And the regulatory, not the regulations themselves from the standpoint of should we be doing this, but the how policies are set. There is data and science and trending that we make decisions on daily, quarterly, yearly, in the 5-year and the 10-year mark. We have to project out based on solid data and understanding. And what we don't see is that policies are set by the same analysis of data and understanding. Sometimes the policy runs ahead of the analysis of actually what is underlying the system. And so then we get out of lockstep and we're in a situation where the regulatory environment is uncertain, it's unstable, it's unenforceable, and that doesn't do anyone any good. It creates actually more bad actors because you're more vulnerable, and that's not good either. So the regulatory environment's a big one. And then I would say, you know, Oregon land use is actually a very antiquated system. It was very ahead of its time in its day, but it's not been modernized in an effective way. It's kind of Band-Aid on top of Band-Aid on top of Band-Aid. And what you end up with is large sites that are significant contributors to the tax base. That's something we're dependent on, but are beholden to some really odd requirements about what our buildings should look like. Or, you know, we need to have bicyclists able to roll right up to one of the machines and park their bike right outside, which is not safe. So we're out of lockstep with the policies, and that'll continue to pressure industries to look at more partner-friendly locations.
Yeah, yes to all those points. We're dealing with very much of the same, as well as when you look at what other cities might be presenting as incentives, right? In some states and some cities, they're quite literally giving away buildings and land and 10-year tax advantages, and that makes it a lot easier, especially from a startup perspective, to gain ground, get momentum, and then reach that exit velocity. So we're really trying to make that work here, but we could really use some help, I think, from the local and state government to think about it maybe in a different way, as incentivizing the technology development that is happening here as a way to pull more technology up here, make it a technology center, pulling more of the skilled labor up so we can apply across multiple industries. Because let's say I hire one person to come in and be a robot engineer. That person likely has a family, right? Has a wife and kids, and then maybe they go to Oregon and then develop here. And what if we could keep that talent here? Think of how much talent rolls through this town with the 3 colleges that we talked about earlier. It rolls through and then leaves, right? So we're depositing a fair bit of energetic potential in the minds of these kids that then go out and develop technology in all of these other places. So wouldn't it be great if we could invest that time, effort, and money here, and it stays here and continues to grow and turn Eugene into what it really could be, right? So I think there's a full circle approach of thinking about our investment not just in dollars but in knowledge and in time, and how do we keep that here. I think that's also systemic in the United States as well. We've offshored all kinds of things. We can do the same thing here, is pull it in, keep it, hold it, invest it, grow it, and then grow out from here instead of sending everything away.
Karin Knudsen, City Club member, and you all have answered one of my questions, so I'm going to ask a slightly different one, which is that locally and statewide, regionally, nationally, globally, a lot of interest and concern around addressing emissions in transportation and also addressing emissions through production of materials that are the key inputs to housing stock and addressing our housing crisis. Can the 3 of you talk a little bit about what you would like to see as we are engaging with these challenges at a state level and locally and turning to face these crises? What kind of actions you'd like to see locally or statewide to support you all being able to better help us address those challenges through your work as our manufacturers?
So for Arcimoto specifically, for us, right, we make a vehicle, we make a product. That's just some level of state or local purchase incentive rebate, right? So it allows us to bring electrification, make it more accessible. That's part of the mission that we're doing here, right? Is can we produce an electric vehicle that people that could actually benefit from electrification could afford, right? That's a big gap in electrification. And it's really difficult right now because of the cost of the rare earth materials and everything that goes into it. We're starting at a pretty high point that normal automotive manufacturers don't have to start at, and then I have to build a car on top of that, and then figure out also how to put it out into somebody's driveway. So that's why we focused really in on efficiency, right, to help keep that cost down, put everything that you need and nothing that you don't that's in it, so we can actually start to electrify some of those folks that are literally having to make the fuel or food decision every day, right? Those are the people that need electrification. We don't need a $100,000 Tesla. It's a beautiful car, and I got blood, sweat, and tears quite literally in a lot of those vehicles. But it doesn't solve the problem for most folks here. So, for us, what we could see locally to really help is really something very simple and just purchase rebates. 1, more people could afford and get electrification in their life. 2, we can sell more products, continue to grow, and build out that manufacturing base.
I love that because it's sort of like, well, then what do we do, right? Don't just complain. So at a very Pollyanna level, I would really love folks to pause and get curious about economic development work again. I would love folks to pause for a moment and re-ask themselves kind of the fundamental questions of why is this bad? Couldn't it possibly be good? Like sort of get out of the ruts we've all been and what we believed, what we were quite sure is true about what's happening. And I think all of us are pretty open door, and we would welcome the questions. We want to talk about it because we can't get to any solutions unless everyone, even at the local government level, including staff, can for a minute get off of the soapbox of what they know to be correct. And start to reimagine, okay, well, maybe things have changed. What does this look like? Could we talk about maybe beauty is different? Beauty, if you look at social media, is very different today than it was 10 years ago. So things have changed, and we can't all come together and get this work done and keep us viable until we've had a discussion about it. And the curiosity has to be in understanding and then feeling really proud and taking ownership for traded sector. So Eugene only thrives if you have companies here making things that are bought from someone outside the state. If we only ever make things here that are bought by people here, then the same dollar just goes round and round and round and round, and it never grows, and we never have any capital for innovation. We have to be able to sell our goods outside of the state, and on a lot of them, we have to be able to make money, because that's how we all go do cool stuff, and we go to Scandinavian Festival, and we spend our money on camping, or whatever the thing is we're going to do. So we have to get excited about that and stop making villains and heroes out of it, and start to say, like, it's okay to make money, and it's okay to do work well, and it's okay that our products go somewhere else, because the alternative is we are buying lumber grown in Florida, milled in Georgia, building an Oregon house, which is terrible. I mean, it's great for Florida and Georgia. That's so fun.
Yeah, I would say that, you know, again, problems are solved when we sit down and talk about it. You've probably heard my accent by now. I was born and raised in Northern Ireland during the height of what was known as the Troubles. Guess what solved the Troubles? People put down their weapons and sat around a table and talked and came to a peace solution. Now, that's a little bit of an extreme example, but again, take that into any situation, and the minute you've got opposing viewpoints, you've got to find a way to bring those viewpoints to the table and talk about it. Bottom line is, we're a for-profit, publicly traded company. How many here have a 401k or an IRA or investments on the stock market, right? And we kind of expect that money to grow. Well, the only way that grows is that if publicly traded companies are successful and their stock means something. So there's the rub. So we can have all of the kind of philosophical, Pollyanna viewpoints and hold those dearly. That's every individual's right to do that. But you've also then got to put on the cloak or the clothes of the reality of day-to-day living. How do you pay your bills? Where does your income come from? And that's kind of the economy that we live in. But again, manufacturers are not the enemy of Oregon. We want to be part of Oregon, and we want to be a community partner. But how do we come to that? How do we live in harmony? And that means that we maybe all have to give a little. I'm just saying.
The last one, I'd say Karen, because congratulations on your announcement. But all housing. I think let's start talking about all housing, not just affordable housing, capital A, but all housing, so that we're really talking about the supply and demand ratio, and we need it at all levels. So that would be, as a lumber producer, of course, I'm going to say studs and dimensional lumber is critical to it, but it's really an economic 101, all housing.
That's a great point to end on. Please join me in thanking our panelists today. We're going to continue to talk about housing. We're going to talk about Oregon exporting its goods and a conversation about the proposed Coos Bay Port project in November. So stay tuned for those things. We will continue these important conversations about our economic present and future. A special thanks and acknowledgement to all the City Club volunteers who made this and our programs possible. As you all know, the City Club is a nearly all volunteer, independent nonprofit, and without our members, we couldn't do what we do. This week, I'd like to recognize Thomas Hura. He's a member of our board of directors and a podcaster himself. Definitely check out Thomas's pod. And I want to say that Thomas has been filling in, editing our programs in the absence of another board member, Marilyn Milne, who became a new grandmother this week. Congratulations, Marilyn. And so thank you Congrats, Marilyn, and thank you, Thomas, for all that you do for City Club. Next week, we will not be in this beautiful space, unfortunately. We'll be back in another beautiful space, the Maple Room, for a conversation about civil liberties and threats to those civil liberties here in Oregon. So see you all next week. Thank you.